Welcome to Comedy Wham Presents. I'm your host, Lara Smith. ComedyWham.com is your place to go for all Austin comedy. Comedy Wham Presents is how we bring you glimpses into the lives of comedians in and around Austin, and sometimes just passing through. My guest today is the latter. Hailing from Sacramento, but now calling Los Angeles his home, he's been on San Francisco Sketch Fest, Hell Yes Fest, Sacramento Comedy Festival, and returns again to Austin this year for Altercation Comedy Festival. He was voted Sacramento's best comedian in 2016. He's worked with Doug Stanhope and the legendary late Robin Williams. His debut album, Tangled Up in Plaid, was released on Stand Up Records. Now we await his follow-up, also on Stand Up Records, slated to release in a matter of months. And now, Comedy Wham presents Johnny Taylor. Hi, Johnny.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing okay. Thanks for watching me fumble through.
Oh, it's fun. I love it.
It's always hard reading in front of people, and it's even better when you get tongue-tied and they're like, blah, blah, blah.
I thought you did very good.
Thank you.
It only took 3 or 4 takes.
250 takes later. 6 hours later.
Right. We got there.
Well, thanks for joining us. I saw you last night at the Velv. You did great.
Oh, thanks.
I went to the early show, but I understand the late show was quite a experience.
Yeah, we had after the early show, people were happy, so they were in the mood. They were in the mood to buy drinks.
Yeah.
So they bought us a bunch of drinks, and so for the late show, we were very drunk. It wasn't just the crowd; it was the comedians were drunk also. The openers, I think, kept it together, but my middle act, Daniel Humbarger, a good friend of mine, and I were pretty plastered for the second show. But it was super fun. The crowd was a little bit lighter than the early show, but they were in such a great mood. Mm-hmm. They were like just ready to party. So it was fun, and that room's amazing, and Pat, who runs it now, is amazing, and just one of my favorite rooms in the whole country. So I'm always stoked to come back.
Always a good time at the Velv. Okay, well, so let me ask you an icebreaker question, and I'm borrowing this. Full disclosure, I'm borrowing this from Valerie, who is the often host of Comedy Wham Presents. One word to describe your past.
Ooh, Rocky.
Rocky.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Rocky,
awesome.
I would say.
And I know...
I've lived a life.
You've lived a life. I know that we said that you came from Sacramento initially. Where did you grow up?
I was born in Riverside, California, which is in inland in Southern California. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, me and Keith Lowell Jensen, who's a good friend of mine, born both March 5th, 5 years,
really?
5 years apart, but in the same hospital.
Oh, my God.
Circle C Hospital in Corona. And but I wasn't there long. We moved to Reno, Nevada. Mm-hmm. And then I lived in Reno for, I think, basically from like 1 to 6, and then we moved to Sacramento, and then we moved back to Reno, and then we moved to Santa Monica for a year. Then we moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma. My mom, very mentally ill, and anytime there'd be a problem, she would just be like, "Well, we're moving," so we moved probably 30 or 40 times by the time I was 10 years old. But Sacramento was home for 25 years, basically from 25 to or from 15 to 40. I've been in SAC, and now I'm in LA for the last 2 years. So.
Yeah. So Sacramento is probably where you would consider like home.
That's
the most,
definitely my hometown for sure.
What are some of your earliest memories of comedy?
Oh, I remember vividly my first memory of stand-up comedy was watching Robin Williams at the Met.
Oh, wow.
It was on HBO. I was just a little kid. I couldn't believe my parents would even let me watch it. I just remember being like, wow, like this dude's amazing. And being like, I want to do that someday. But, it took years and years before I even tried it. I was pretty late to stand up.
Did you perform a lot as a kid? Like, did you do any kind of performance?
Yeah, for sure. I was in song and dance when I was in school, and I talent shows. I would, I would always entertain like the dinner table. It's that age-old story of like, if there was anybody around, I would be, basically performing. And that's still my favorite place to do comedy. Is just our car trips with other comics. That's where the real funny shit comes out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, my earliest was Robin Williams and Bobcat and Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, just watching specials on TV.
How old were you the first time so you already had it made up in your mind you wanted to do it. How old were you the first time you actually tried to pursue it?
I was early 30s.
Early 30s?
Yeah, so I was pretty late. I needed to make up for lost time, so.
What do you think held you back from trying it before?
Oh, a ton of excuses, really. I mean, I was married and divorced and pursuing a day job and trying to make money and trying to have a family and blah, 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 just a number of excuses. And then I finally went to an open mic, and I was like, wow, I got to be better than some of these guys, for sure. And went back the next week and did 5 minutes.
Okay. So you went to an open mic to watch the first time.
Yeah, I think that's pretty common.
Yeah.
Where you kind of go do a reconnaissance mission
Right.
and see how people are doing. And I remember there was one comic in particular, I'm not going to mention their name because they're still on the scene, but I remember being so unimpressed by this person and being like, wow, like, I admired how fearless he was because he was so brutally unfunny. And I was just like, wow, this guy, like, has so much confidence. Like, the confidence to talent ratio is, like, so outrageous. And I was like, man, if I could just have that confidence, I know I'm at least funnier than that guy. So.
Was he getting any laughs?
No.
No.
I don't
But
think
didn't stop him.
I've seen him get laughs since then.
Yeah.
By accident probably. But he's gotten a little bit better. I'll tell you who it is when we're off mic.
So how was your first? You said you did about a 5-minute set for your first
First
time.
set was great. Yeah.
It was good?
Yeah, it went really well. Too well, really. It I was like, oh, this is easy. My second mic was awful. I bombed, and I had people come. I was like, I didn't have anybody come the first night because I was like, this could go terribly. But I had such an overwhelming amount of confidence from that first set that I just like invited everybody I knew to the second show. I'm like, come out, I'm fucking hilarious.
Kind of like Icarus, you just got too close.
Right, man. My fucking wings melted on that second show.
Oh, man.
I remember like looking out at the crowd, just being like, oh, nobody in here likes me. Oh. It was terrible.
So that was when you became an actual comedian.
Right,
That's
I almost
how every
stopped.
comedian feels.
After that second set, I almost just quit. I was like, this isn't for me.
Right. So I have to ask you, and I ask almost every comedian that shares that experience, which is almost every comedian, what makes you push through and go back?
I think I had gone to Luna's. For people listening, Luna's is, but really was, a legendary comedy night in Sacramento. So many great comics came through: Mikey Winfield, Kyrie Shabazz, myself, Daniel Humbarger. But it was ran by Keith Lowell Jensen. And so I went to see. I had done that second set, and I went to comedy night. It was Wednesday nights. Went to comedy night at Luna's, and so impressed with the lineup. I was like, wow, this is actual comedy.
Yeah.
It's Jason Ressler, a pretty famous Sacramento road dog, was headlining, and it was maybe to this day one of the greatest live comedy shows I'd ever seen. Was that set by Jason Ressler that night? It was amazing. I was just like, wow, this dude is such a pro.
Yeah.
He told a story about working as a repo man and doing a comedy show. I remember, because it's still this day I think back to it and it blows me away how good this bit was. He was working as a repo man, and he had gone to see, he was working this big Harley Davidson convention as a comedian. And just on the off chance that some of these motorcycles in the parking lot were on his repo list, he started running license plates.
Oh, man.
And he found 30 bikes that were on his repo list. So he called the repo people and had them repossess these people's motorcycles while he was performing on stage. It's like,
oh my God.
It was first off, it's an amazing story, but it was such a genius bit. And I just remember being like, wow, if I could write a bit that good someday, it was, I'm sorry if I spoiled that bit for people, but it sticks with me because it's just one of the greatest bits I've ever seen performed live.
That's insane.
And I talked to him, And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to do this. And he's like, yeah, man, you should.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, maybe I should keep trying. He's like, yeah, it's rough at first. He's like, but you never know. There's some gems come through that just stick it out. And I talked to Keith and I said, hey, I just started doing stand-up. What would it take to do a set? And he's like, I never do this, but just come back next week. I'll give you 5 minutes. And I did that. Keith became one of my best friends.
Wow.
That set went really well, and the rest is history,
It's amazing. Yeah, I actually, part of how you kind of came across my radar is a friend of mine had recommended you and Keith's show that y'all used to do together. It's Funny Because.
It's Funny Because, yep.
And I reviewed it for a podcast that I still do, Radio Tatas, and that's kind of how I started following the both of you.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time that I found out you were coming through and I got to see you at the Velv. I was super excited. I was like, I finally get to meet this dude.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah. It seems like I've known you for a long time.
I know. I think it's been probably about 3 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, for sure. I've been doing the Velv. This is my 4th year of headlining the Velv, so.
So, okay, you push through, you go back, you do 5 minutes, for Keith. At Luna's?
Yeah,
is that right?
I crushed that set.
Really?
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of... So did you figure out a pacing from that of, like, confidence to, like,
no.
ratio? Or how did you...
I mean, when I look back at it now, I was still fairly dreadful the first year. I would have good set. I was getting laughs for sure. Like, I wasn't bad, but... I was very nervous. I didn't know whether I wanted to keep... I didn't want to touch the mic. I remember that being a huge anxiety. Like, if I didn't want to take it out because I was afraid it would come disconnected or blah, blah, blah. So I would leave the mic on the stand, and I was paranoid about adjusting the mic. So wherever it was, I would just adjust myself. Like, if it was a short person, I would just bend way down. What a mess. But yeah, I was not confident the first year, so, I wasn't at all.
I didn't even ask you, how long ago was that? When did you get started?
I've been in stand-up for 8 years.
Okay.
8 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it feel like a long time? Does it feel like it's been a whirlwind? How does that...
It feels like it's been a while, It's definitely different. Doing stand-up is different now than it was. It was very carefree. And really fun the first 2 years. Yeah. And it's still fun. It's still my favorite thing to do, obviously. I mean, on stage last night, I was having so much fun. That set last night. It's the most fun, but it's a different kind of fun because now finances are involved and I have a manager now, and it's like, I'm auditioning a lot more and I'm writing pilots and, working all sorts of shit, and it's more stressful than it was. I always say when I see comedians bitching about how hard it is their first year or two, I'm like, you should fucking quit. You should quit now. If you think it's hard, if you think it's hard your first year and you're just not having any fun, this isn't for you. Right. You should stop.
It's not going to get easier.
It gets way harder. Yeah. The more prolific you get, the more well-known you get, the better gigs you get, the more difficult it is. Yeah. Because you have to travel, you have to figure out how am I going to afford to keep the money that I make from the gigs. Yeah. It's a math problem.
What were you doing before you committed to stand up full time?
I had jobs. I had real jobs. Yeah. I worked as the HR manager, which is, I think, hilariously ironic. I worked as an HR manager for Borders for 8 years, Borders Books and Music. And then I worked for Sacramento County as a retirement specialist for 12 years. So I've been in HR and been in retirement and benefits, things of that nature. Yeah. And just real shit, real jobs. Yeah. And I juggled both of them for a long time. I'm a full-time comic now for the last 2 years, thank God. I've been able to do that, but it's it's a lot easier to work a day job and not do anything else. Right. Like it's working a day job and trying to do this full-time was killing me. Yeah. It's too much.
So what prompted you to take that, call it a leap of faith, I don't know.
It is a leap of faith, for sure.
To just quit the day job and go full-time?
I started dating a girl that lived in Los Angeles, and I wanted to spend more time with her. and I had management interest in Los Angeles, but they didn't want to manage me if I wasn't living there.
Gotcha.
And so I was like, well, my girlfriend lives in L.A. I've got interest in L.A.
Yeah.
I should just move to L.A., be with her, and also pursue. And L.A., as frustrating as the scene is comedy-wise, because everybody's a comic. There's 10,000 comics. 1% of them are good, and they're the best of the best. And then you have 9,900 awful comics to deal with. It's been great for my career because I met very important people that I needed to meet to make this more of a reality as far as doing it full time. But it is a leap of faith, and I've had some months where I struggled, and just now is like, okay, cool, like things are starting to ramp up. But yeah, it's hard. And Sacramento, what a great scene they have. So many great comics have come out of Sacramento, but there's no industry there, you know. So if you need to be someplace where there's industry, it's really LA or New York. And it's to a lesser degree because the internet's helped a lot. You know, you got a lot of people that are setting up a camera in their bedrooms and, you know, Tuscaloosa and getting millions of views and being able to pursue a career in entertainment via the magic of the internet.
How do you feel about that?
Like YouTube culture, and like YouTube comedy.
Because to me, for somebody who's put in the hard work with stand up and paid the dues and done the road work and stuff like that, that's got to be kind of, I don't know.
You know, God bless them. Like there's a place for that. I enjoy a YouTube star. You know, there's like, I would be lying if I said I didn't go home and watch Jeffree Star fucking makeup tutorials like a 15-year-old girl. I find the dude completely fascinating. Yeah. And I think YouTube culture is kind of sad. And I mean, there's a lot of these YouTubers that are having depression because their whole job is this feedback loop of like, I need to get these likes, I need to get this many views. How do I get more views? Is my channel dying? Blah, blah, blah. But I think there's a place for that entertainment. I use it myself. Yeah. Now, YouTubers going to do stand-up based on their YouTube following can suck my dick.
There we go.
I don't I opened for a YouTuber, I know.
Oh, my God.
And this guy, I'm not going to name his name, but he's very nice. But he packed the place out because he has this huge YouTube following. And I blew him off the stage. You know, I had just these 300 people that were, you know, ready to have fun. And I was a lot better than him. And then after the show, he's got a line of 200 people waiting to take a picture with him. And I'm walking lonely back to my car to smoke pot. And as I'm walking back through this line, everybody's like, oh, my God, you were the best on the show. You're amazing. And I was like, well, then why are you standing to take a picture with this dude while I'm like going to smoke a joint by myself?
Because Instagram.
Right. That's the answer to so many questions nowadays. Like, because Instagram. That should be the name of the talk show.
Might be the title of this episode.
Right. So, you know, and I get it. These people are like, well, you know, how do I make $15,000 in a weekend? Well, I could go headline a comedy club and draw, you know, sell out every show, 6 shows, make 80% of the door. I get it. Like, I get why they do it. You know, it's easy money, but they don't have acts. And there's people that, you know, I don't think I've seen a YouTuber do stand-up that wasn't completely atrocious. Yeah. You know?
Well, I think a lot of them have severe social anxiety. Not that a lot of comedians don't, but I think a lot of them, because they have a YouTube channel, sometimes it's because they don't leave their house much.
Right.
And so I wonder, you know, how many of them actually do make it out to do stand-up. And if so, probably not going to go well because it's such a different environment.
Yeah. I mean, some of these YouTubers, they're not working out their act. You know, they're basically going from the bedroom to the stage. Yeah. You know, and it doesn't translate, you know. Yeah. That's the thing is they're almost never going to bomb because they're going to go to a place where it's their fans. And, you know, when you have this fan base, that's why it's like when a real famous comedian is like, well, I never bomb. And it's like, yeah, you're not supposed to. You have a following. You're not going to bomb in front of your own fans. Right. You will not. I promise you. a group of 80% of people that are there specifically to see you. You could go up there and literally say farts for an hour, and the crowd's going to be on your side.
Right.
They're going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
They've come to root for you regardless.
You don't bomb at that level.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, although it's amazing because I do occasionally hear of like really famous comedians popping into rooms to do small sets and really not doing
Different.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, a famous comic dropping in on a show that's not their show. They are subject to the same rules and regulations as
But
the
the
rest
good
of us.
ones will roll with it because they know.
Right.
They know that's how they work out stuff.
Right.
So have you done a lot like I know you come to Austin, like you said, at least once a year now.
Yeah.
Have you done a lot of road work in other cities
oh, yeah,
or?
for sure.
Yeah.
I've been all over the country and Canada at this point. So, to whether I'm working with a friend of mine, like I'll work with Posehn, and I've done a lot of work with Steve Trevino, which, Steve is an interesting one. He's such a great guy, but politically we're different, you know? And so it seems like an odd match, but his crowds are great, and they appreciate a different point of view.
Really?
Yeah, and it's cool, so we both do well. But, Posehn's crowds are basically my crowd,
on
too,
board
so
already.
It's, but yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of great shows all over the country with a host of people and headlined. And, just this last year, I was in Philly and New York and Florida and Texas and Colorado, Seattle, Portland. So, yeah, I've been all over.
Have you gone to any places where you're like, oof, never do that again? Or
let me think. I do pretty well wherever. More than anything, I think of coming up and SAC and some of the shows in the little shithole towns, not to quote Trump, but little shithole towns around Sacramento where, they just didn't get what I do. But nowadays it's, I'll be honest, Redding is the place that I would be fine if I never went back to.
Really?
Redding, California. Lodi is awful. Redding has a particular room that, I'll tell a story about this room because there's a comic that books the show, and I was headlining the Sacramento Punchline Showcase. It was a Wednesday night, about 10 comics on the bill, and the person that books that Redding room was on the show. And so I was in the green room talking about, a terrible show I had done in Redding, and, kind of like holding court in the middle with a bunch of comics around me. And I'm shitting on this room, and that guy wasn't in the room. And so I'm shitting on this room. I'm like, oh, it's a fucking awful room. And another comic's like, yeah, but it pays well. And I was like, yeah, I know it does, but fine, fuck that room. It's like such a shitty room. Everybody, no one's ever on board, and they're all conservative and blah, blah, blah. And then the guy comes walking in, and he comes in, he's like, Johnny, I want to talk to you about getting you back in my room in Redding. And I was like, cool, let's talk dates.
you're like, is this a setup? How did this work out?
So funny. Everybody started cracking. The guy had no idea why we were laughing.
Oh, God.
I was like, yeah, man, I'll give you my Velvs.
If you do need me to edit that out, let me know.
Oh,
but
no.
that's amazing. I
No.
love it. So how did you get in with stand-up records?
Well, it was a weird path to stand-up records. I was my friend Keith had signed with stand-up, and he released an album called L4G on stand-up records, and I was featuring for him on that. And
Yeah.
Dan Schlissel had come to record Keith, and I middled for him, and Dan said, hey, you're very good. Have you considered recording a record? And I was like, well, I haven't recorded for anybody. It's like, well, I'm not going to sign you, but, keep working on your act and everything. And I was like, oh, that's cool feedback. So I got to meet Dan. And so about a year later, I decided I wanted to just record independently and then maybe shop it to labels. Mm-hmm. And so I recorded it, and I sent it out. Dan was one of the people I sent it out to. And I didn't hear back from the majority of people I sent it out to, but I heard back from 3 people. I heard back from Kill Rock Stars, which wanted to do just a 1-album deal. And then I heard from Sub Pop that said that they weren't interested now, but they might be in the future. And I heard from Stand Up Records. And Dan was like, hey, I want to release this. And I was like, okay. And then signed a 3-album deal with Stand Up and put out Tangled Up in Plaid, did pretty well, critically acclaimed, and I think it reached like number 6 or 7 on the iTunes charts.
Yeah.
With literally no marketing behind it, if I'm being honest. And I'm proud of that record. I listen to it and it's funny because I'm like, wow, I'm not that comic anymore, really. Yeah. It's different for sure than my latest one called Bumming of the Devil that's coming out very soon, exclusively on SiriusXM. And for 3 months anyways. And Bumming is such a better example of the comic I am now. So I like it a lot better. So, but Tangled it's a cool like little time capsule of where I was at that time. So
how do you think you've evolved? Like what's changed besides, but
this is going to sound hard to believe, but I was somehow more dry back in the day. I'm a little bit more animated now, a little bit looser. I'm just a better comic, my cadence is better, my timing's better, the jokes are better. Although I do have some good ones on that first record.
Yeah, I listened back to it, to part of it at least yesterday, and yeah,
there's some good bits on there for sure. But I'm different than I was, but I like them. They're both my babies. I like them both. But
that's like asking what's your favorite kid,
right? But I'm working on this new hour now, and I got one like anchor bit now that a bit about a kid having an allergic reaction that is a newer bit that's like one of the anchors of the new set, and I'm going to do a lot more new. I'm going to get more experimental tonight. I got a lot of new stuff to do. So just trying to work out this new hour. And
I might have to pop back in for your late show.
Yeah, it should be cool.
I like comparing sets just to see like what the difference is, or, and also I know the crowd can make a difference as well.
Yeah, tonight should be a party. I have a lot of comedian friends that are coming through. Avery Moore, who is literally one of the best comics in the country.
Love Avery and have interviewed her on this show. So
I think she's one of the best comics in the country.
She's amazing.
So she'll come by, and I just have a lot of Austin friends coming through.
Yeah.
I had a lot of Austin friends come through for the early show yesterday too, but even more. I love Austin. Austin's like I would say my 3rd or 4th home.
I would love to see Austin become on par with New York and LA one day.
Yeah, there's some good scenes. I mean, Austin is definitely one of the other scenes that are prominent. It's, obviously it's LA and New York, but there's also, I would say, SAC in the Bay Area. And I have to include SAC in there because I honestly think SAC has better comics than San Francisco does. And I'm not even being biased. I just think objectively I'd say SAC, Denver, Portland, and Austin are the other scenes in the country that are fucking incredible.
Yeah. So where do you see yourself heading next? So I guess what I'm saying, you're getting ready to release the next album.
Right.
And every time, and this is my understanding from a lot of comedians, it feels like a reset. Like you have to start working up all new stuff again once that album comes out and all of that. Where are you at right now with that?
I'd say I have 20 minutes that I like towards this new hour. But I'm working on other stuff too. I got a show Sick Joke with my girlfriend, visual artist Anusha Hutton. She is a very talented presenter in her own right, and we have this pilot that we're shopping to networks. And we have a great executive producer, and I would say my goal is to keep doing stand-up as much as I can, get Sick Joke off the ground, write here and there where I can, and honestly split time between New York, LA, and the UK. I would say I would like to spend 4 months in each. That would be the goal.
Yeah.
Is to explore the UK market more, and split time in New York and LA, because my heart's in New York. I love New York. And I know I need to be in LA. So I would like to spend time all three places.
When you play New York versus LA, how do those crowds feel differently?
They're not so much.
No?
Yeah, they're really not. I mean, New York, the comedy community in New York is much more welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
LA, everybody's a competition in LA.
Yeah.
New York is more about the art form. It's not a bunch of waiters trying to do stand-up, and actors trying to do stand-up. It's stand-ups that are maybe trying to act. It's different. LA is actors trying to do stand-up, and New York is stand-ups trying to act.
I've heard you can also get up a little bit more in New York because of the transportation issue isn't quite as bad.
Yeah, and there's in Greenwich Village alone, there's 5 comedy clubs that are doing stand-up 5 to 7 nights a week.
Yeah.
Multiple shows. So, I was there for 4 days, and I did 14 sets in 4 days. So, it's a different beast. It's a lot easier to get up, especially if people and they're like, oh, yeah, this guy's legit,
Yeah. So after this many years, do you think you enjoy it more now?
I enjoy it in a different way.
Okay.
I enjoy being able to do an hour now, as opposed to really struggling for 5 to 7 minutes.
Yeah. When
I first started. But there is a unique joy of just starting out, because it's just fun. It's there's no pressure. It's just you and your friends trying to get as many mics in as possible. And I miss that. It's not the same as it was.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's still stand-up, and it's still the thing I love to do more than anything else. So.
Yeah. If you had any wisdom to impart to people listening that are either new in stand-up or wanting to get into stand-up but are kind of scared to do it, what would you say?
You're not going to die. If you really want to do it, it's not going to kill you. The worst that's going to happen is it's not going to go well. And that's literally happened to everybody. So if you really want to do it, don't get discouraged. Keep going up. Keep writing.
Yeah.
Keep trying it out. And if you're not any better after a year, quit.
And if you hate it, quit.
If you're not having fun, quit.
Right.
Because you're just muddling up the scene for the rest of us.
What's your writing process like? Do you literally sit down with pen and paper?
Never. I never once have done that.
What do you do?
I carried it. I remember when we first started, I carried this notebook that I never used. I carried a notebook because I saw other comics carrying notebooks, and they would write stuff down. I would never do it. I have never written a bit down. I have always just had it in my head, taken it to the stage, and kind of figured it out from there.
Yeah.
I've had so many bits that I believed in that I bombed with for a year that ended up becoming amazing bits for me, just because I kept tweaking them on stage. But yeah, my process isn't like people are like, hey, I'm having a writing session.
Yeah.
It's like, I wish I was like, I'll be there and let's fucking hammer some shit out. But it's just like not a thing I do. My process is different. I will use Twitter.
Yeah.
I will use Twitter to hammer shit out and see, kind of what sticks. And if it does well there, I'll try to bring a version of it to the stage.
For those ones that you say that you're working out and they aren't quite landing, how do you know which ones to give up on and which ones not? Like, where's the instinct that knows, like, this has legs, I don't want to give up on it?
I'm very narcissistic. I never believe I have a bad idea. I'm always like, I'll figure this out. So I rarely give up on a premise.
Yeah.
There have been ones in the past where I have abandoned bits that I really thought had something, but I could not figure out how to tell them. And there are ones that I'll go back to.
Yeah.
Every year I'll talk to somebody where they'll be like, hey, you used to do this joke. I used to have this joke about there's something about the phrase, there's just something about him. you know. I had my ex-wife had The Rock. This movie trailer came on with The Rock, and she's all, "Ooh, I love The Rock." And I was like, "Oh yeah," and she said, "Yeah, there's just something about him." And I was like, "You mean a fucking incredibly handsome, huge, muscular, talented?" Yeah, there's just something about him. Yeah, it's weird.
Can't place it.
Which is, I don't know what it is. It's just got this. And I'm like, the ironic part is she's married to me, which is like, I am the perfect, like, there's just something about him that I can't figure out, you know. But I had this bit, and I had a friend of mine was like, dude, that bit was so great. Like, why'd you stop doing it? And I had literally forgotten. That I used to do that bit. I was like, well, there's no good reason. It was doing well. I literally just forgot that I had that bit, you know.
Did you ever pull it back in?
Maybe I'll do it tonight.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
I'll do it tonight. Yeah, it's so funny where I used to have this, people around Sacramento will definitely know this to be something that is truly unique to me. But there'll be a new comic that, you know, wouldn't recognize who I am. And they'll be like, hey, you know, is this your first time up? And I'll be like, dude, I've forgotten more bits than you have currently. You know, like, no, it's not my first time up. Like, I have shit that I've forgotten about in a drunken stupor that, you know, can still blow doors for 7 minutes, you know. So it's one of those things where I probably should write some stuff down.
Well, do you record yourself when you're working stuff out so that you can hear back? Or?
The last time I recorded myself prior to, I'm doing a late night submission process currently, so I'm recording a lot of sets. Mm-hmm. But the last time I had recorded before that process was my last album. I never record myself.
Really?
I never listen back. I hate watching myself do stand-up. It makes me feel very uncomfortable.
Really?
And I know some people were like, I record every set and you have to do it. And you know, I've heard so many people, you have to do this, you have to do that. And the truth is, you don't have to fucking do anything.
Yeah.
Whatever works for you, works for you. So find your process, stick to it. And if I was going to give any advice to anybody new is, stand up. People will tell you there's a bunch of rules, but the fact is there isn't any. You know, do whatever you want. And people are like, well, this guy's telling this joke and it's horrible and they shouldn't be talking about these subject matters. And I'm like, well, the ultimate judge is the crowd. You know, if the crowd's into it, then you can say whatever the fuck you want. You know.
Do you ever do voiceover work? I liked that little voice you just
no,
into.
I could, though. I could.
Yeah, you could.
I'm going to get in the ASMR community.
Oh.
Where I'm just like tapping a fucking, I'm like, you're going to sleep.
Just whispering
Yeah.
quietly into the mic.
Yeah. My girlfriend loves that shit. And it literally, she's like, it calms me down. I was like, this literally makes me feel like cockroaches are inside my eyelids.
Oh,
like, I
yeah,
cannot deal
me
with
too.
this.
When people, I think I have that, what is it, misophonia or whatever, where like smacking sounds or like
Oh, yeah.
chewing sounds or things like that just unnerve me. And so like listening to podcasts, if somebody is like swallowing loudly or chewing or doing anything smacky, I'm like,
Yeah, there are certain things that, like, I love animals, but if a dog is barking when I'm trying to do anything, it fucking throws me into a rage. Like, I'm that guy that's like, shut your dog up. I don't know what you have to do. Like, give it a treat. Put on some calming music. I don't know. Make your dog stop barking. I'm trying to concentrate. It drives me crazy.
So where do you want to go from here? Like, what is your dream?
Oh, dream would be to, you know, live in cool places, do stand-up all the time, have a really, really well-paying job in TV, and just live my best life. You know? Like, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm about the grind. I'm like, no, I want to make money doing this. I want to be able to take cool vacations. I want to, you know, marry my girlfriend and give her a big diamond ring, and I want us to have Gucci handbags. No, I want to get compensated for all the fucking hard work I've put in to do this. And there's people that are talented, and I think people that are talented should get whatever the fuck they want, because in the arts, that's really all we have anymore. I mean, I hate to sound so, aggrandizing, but without art, without comedy and music and creativity, we would just be a miserable society that was very sad with the state of the world. So I think the arts are so important, and I think that good artists should be compensated for their efforts.
I agree. So with that said, and I'll wrap this up to one word to describe your future.
Hopeful.
I like it. Where can they find you, Johnny Taylor?
Oh, everywhere. I'm on the internet. At Hipsterocracy on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not on Instagram anymore because that is the one that causes the most anxiety for people.
Because Instagram. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Instagram creates the most feelings of FOMO.
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I not eating that fucking burrito right now? That guy has a burrito, and I want it. So anyways, yeah, find me on Twitter. I'm on there a lot. I'm on Twitter a lot. If you know me, you can find me on Facebook, and if you don't try to add me because I'm not gonna fucking approve your.
That's just weird.
Your friend request. Stop trying to add me on Facebook. Fuck. Just stop. I have 500 non-reply to friend requests on Facebook. Where I'm just like, who are you?
Well, then I feel honored because I am your friend on Facebook.
Exactly. Yeah, but follow me on Twitter. Anybody can do that.
Okay.
I will block you if you're an asshole, though.
Yeah.
I will I get a lot of use out of the block button. So I'm on there, and then just fucking come see me live.
Yep. And if you are listening this week, you need to go get your ticket for Altercation Comedy because he will be there.
Oh, yeah. Saturday the 29th, I'm doing the big brunch show at Kick Butt Coffee, and then I'm doing the 9 o'clock show, which is the Stand-Up Records show, headlined by my friend Ray Harrington. My friend Daniel Humbarger is also on that show.
He's also in this room, and we will get him back in here soon.
Yeah.
The Stand-Up Record Showcase was one of my favorites last year. I had so much
I
freaking
fucking
fun.
crushed that show.
It was incredible.
I remember after that show being like, wow, that's maybe one of the top 10 of all time. It was such a fun set.
Well, I'm glad that happened in Austin.
Yeah, it was cool.
Well, Johnny Taylor, thank you so much for taking time out for us.
Of course. Thank you.
And you can find us at Comedy Wham on Twitter. We are Comedy Wham on Facebook, and go to comedywham.com for more interviews like the one you heard here. Thanks.